The town had grown used to the shape of the house at the edge of the woods. It stood there like a scar, a dark silhouette against the horizon, its roof sagging, its shutters nailed shut, its door swollen by years of rain and silence. Children whispered about it in playgrounds. Teenagers dared each other to touch its walls at night. Adults, though they pretended indifference, always lowered their voices when speaking of it. The house was not just abandoned, it was forsaken. It had once belonged to the Wren family, farmers who disappeared without explanation more than a century ago. Their belongings were left behind, furniture under sheets of dust, clothes still hanging in wardrobes, dishes still stacked on the shelves. Only the family was gone. People said they had vanished overnight, as though the earth had swallowed them whole. Others swore they had seen pale shapes in the windows long after the Wrens were gone, shapes that moved even when the wind was still. The house became a legend, and legends became warnings. Warnings, however, are fragile things. They break when confronted with curiosity, laughter, or arrogance. On a cold autumn evening, when the mist crept down from the hills and pressed itself into the streets, Clara Dunn stood in the square. Her hands clenched, her face pale as chalk. She had just returned from the house. She had run all the way, her breath tearing from her lungs, her boots splattered with mud. People turned to look at her, surprised by her sudden appearance. Clara was not one to make scenes. She was quiet, bookish, the type who lived more in thoughts than in conversations. But that night she burst into the crowd like a messenger of death. "They're there," she gasped. "The shadows, they're still there." Her words tumbled out broken, uneven, but full of terror. She trembled as though the cold had seeped into her bones. Those who stood nearby exchanged uneasy glances. Some frowned, others smirked. "What shadows?" someone asked. "In the house," Clara whispered, as though saying its name would invite something unspeakable. "They move, even when there is no light. I saw them. I swear I saw them." The crowd stirred. A boy of 17, Marcus Hale, laughed and threw his arm around his friend. "Shadows that don't move," he mocked. "Maybe you just need a lantern, Clara." A ripple of laughter followed. Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I'm telling you the truth," she pleaded. "You mustn't go near it. Promise me you won't go inside." But warnings, as always, are brittle things. By the time the sun dipped fully behind the trees, a group of 5 stood at the edge of the woods. Marcus, his younger brother Owen, their friend Lydia, a tall boy named Thomas, and a girl called Rachel. They had brought flashlights, though the batteries were weak. They had brought bravado, though it was thinner than they admitted. And they had brought Clara's warning, but only as fuel for their jokes. The air smelled of wet leaves and iron. An owl shrieked in the distance. The forest seemed to press in around them, funneling them toward the clearing where the house waited. "There it is," Lydia whispered. The structure rose before them, blacker than the shadows around it. Its windows were boarded shut, its door swollen shut like a mouth that refused to open. A single chimney jutted against the moonlight like a finger raised in warning. Rachel shivered. "It doesn't feel right," Marcus smirked. "That's the point, isn't it? To prove Clara wrong. She's always telling ghost stories, always acting like she knows things. Tonight we'll show her the truth. There's nothing here but dust." "Then why do I feel like it's watching us?" Owen asked quietly. No one answered. The closer they came, the colder it grew. Their breath fogged, their hands numbed. The grass around the foundation was black and brittle, as though nothing living could root itself there. Even the insects avoided it. Thomas reached the porch first. The wood groaned under his weight. He raised his flashlight and shone it across the boards. Dust danced in the beam like snow, but there were no footprints, no signs of life. "See?" he said, his voice echoing strangely. Empty. But as his words left his mouth, a shadow shifted in the corner of the porch. It did not belong to any of them. It was too tall, too thin, and it moved against the direction of their light. Rachel gasped. "Did you see? Just your imagination," Marcus interrupted quickly, though his voice carried a tremor. He pushed the door, but it refused. He shoved harder, shoulders slamming against the swollen wood, until at last it gave way with a groan that seemed almost human. The smell rolled out first, a stench of mold, wet earth and something faintly metallic, like blood long dried. The air inside was colder still and heavy, as though it carried weight. One by one, they stepped into the dark. The first room swallowed them in silence. Their flashlights swept across warped floorboards, peeling wallpaper, and broken furniture draped in gray sheets. Dust floated like tiny ghosts, disturbed by the intrusion. Owen stayed close to his brother, his knuckles white around the flashlight. "It feels heavy," he whispered. "Old houses always do," Marcus replied, forcing confidence into his voice. He swung the beam across the walls, stopping at a painting that hung crooked. The canvas was stained with mold, but the outline of a family could still be seen. A man, a woman, 2 children. Their eyes, though faded, seemed unusually dark, pools of paint that hadn't lost their depth. Rachel touched Lydia's arm. "Don't they look wrong?" Lydia leaned closer, squinting. "Maybe it's just the decay." But she didn't sound convinced. Thomas strode to the staircase at the back of the room. The railing was broken, steps sagging under years of neglect. He grinned over his shoulder. "Shall we see the second floor?" Rachel grabbed his sleeve. "Wait, shouldn't we stay together?" He pulled away with a laugh. "Scared already?" Before Rachel could answer, Owen let out a sharp gasp. His flashlight flickered across the far corner of the room. For a heartbeat, there was something there. A shadow, tall and crooked, stretched against the wall. Then it was gone. "I saw it," Owen said firmly, his voice trembling. "I swear I saw it." The group fell silent. Even Marcus had no quick retort. They all turned their flashlights to the corner, but it was empty. "It was probably the beam from your light," Lydia said, though her voice was thin. "Reflections. Tricks." But Owen shook his head. "No, it moved before my light hit it." They pressed deeper into the house. Every step seemed to echo too loudly, as if the walls themselves were listening. The kitchen was still intact. A table set with cracked plates, rusted silverware, and a glass that had toppled onto its side but never shattered. Rachel bent down, lifting the glass. It was heavier than she expected, as though filled with something unseen. She placed it back quickly, her skin crawling. "Don't touch anything," she muttered. Marcus ignored her. He opened a cabinet, dust exploding outward. Inside were jars filled with black liquid, thick and opaque. He held one up, squinting. "What do you think this is?" "Put it back," Clara's voice echoed in his mind, though she was not there. He laughed at himself, forcing the memory away, and set the jar down harder than intended. The lid rattled. For a second, it seemed as though something inside shifted. Thomas climbed halfway up the stairs, his flashlight sweeping across the landing. "There's a hallway, doors." His voice was muffled, like sound struggling to travel. Lydia chewed her lip. "Maybe we should go." Clara is a coward," Marcus snapped. "She wants us to be afraid." "But we're not," he smiled, though his lips were dry. "We're proving her wrong right now." The others didn't answer. They followed him anyway. The second floor smelled of rot. Wallpaper peeled in strips, revealing wood darkened with age and water. The hall stretched longer than it should have, like a corridor in a dream. Their flashlights barely touched the far door, swallowed by distance. "This doesn't make sense," Rachel murmured. "It looked smaller outside." Thomas laughed nervously. "Old houses play tricks." They opened the first door on the left. Inside was a bedroom, preserved as though waiting for its owners. A bed sagged in the middle, covered in moth-eaten blankets. A doll sat propped on the pillow. Its glass eyes reflected the light strangely. One gleaming white, the other dark as pitch. Lydia stepped closer. "It's broken." As she reached for it, the doll's head tilted. Just slightly. Just enough. She screamed and stumbled back, her flashlight swinging wildly. "It moved." Marcus grabbed the doll, shaking it. Its head lolled loosely, neck joint rotted. He smirked. "See? Just broken. Your imagination." But when he dropped it back onto the pillow, the doll landed upright, perfectly upright, its eyes staring at him. No one laughed this time. At the far end of the hall, the last door was closed. Unlike the others, it looked untouched. Its wood smooth, its knob polished. Owen's voice was small. "I don't like it," Marcus pushed forward. "That's why we need to see it." The knob turned easily. The door creaked open, revealing a small study. A desk stood against the window, covered in papers yellowed with time. A chair was tucked neatly beneath it. The air inside was colder, sharper, like stepping into a cellar. On the desk lay a diary, its leather cover cracked, its pages curled. Lydia opened it carefully. The handwriting was neat but frantic, ink bleeding into the paper. She read aloud, "They come at night. They move through the walls. We cannot escape them. We tried to leave, but the door would not open. The children cry, but their shadows cry louder. I fear the house does not belong to us. We belong to it." The room seemed to tighten around them. The shadows in the corners deepened, pulsing faintly, as though aware of the words. Rachel closed the book quickly. "We shouldn't be here." A sound rose behind them, slow, deliberate footsteps in the hall. But when they turned, the hallway was empty. The flashlights flickered, and for the briefest moment, every wall of the study rippled with movement, as though shadows themselves were breathing. Marcus forced a laugh, too loud. "Old paper, old ink.
Houses settle."
That's all." But his hands trembled. Owen shook his head. "It's real. Clara was right." The others looked at each other, unease heavy in their eyes. For the first time, Marcus had no words. He shoved the diary back onto the desk, and the moment he did, the temperature dropped. Their breath billowed white. The door slammed shut behind them. Rachel screamed, rushing to open it, but the knob would not turn. Thomas threw his weight against it, but it held firm, as though nailed from the other side. Then, from beneath the desk, something moved. A shadow, long and crooked, crawled upward, stretching across the wall. Its limbs bent the wrong way. Its head scraped the ceiling, though there was no form to hold it. The flashlights dimmed. The air thickened, and for the first time, every one of them believed Clara. The room pressed down on them as if the walls themselves had lungs. Every breath the group took felt stolen, borrowed from something that did not wish to share. Rachel clutched the doorknob until her knuckles whitened. "It won't move, it won't—" "Step back," Thomas snapped. He rammed his shoulder into the wood again, grunting with each attempt. The door did not budge. It might as well have been part of the wall. Marcus's flashlight beam danced across the corners of the study. His face was pale, lips tight, but his voice reached for arrogance anyway. "It's just old wood swollen shut. We'll find another way." But no one believed him anymore. From beneath the desk, the shadow stretched further, peeling itself from the darkness like wet cloth. It crawled upward in unnatural jerks, limbs bending at wrong angles, fingers lengthening into claws that never touched the floor yet scraped across the boards in sound. Owen stumbled back, nearly tripping over the rug. "It's moving, oh God, it's real." The flashlight beams weakened, their circles shrinking as though consumed. Thomas cursed under his breath and smacked his torch, but the dim glow only flickered. Then came the whisper. At first it was soft, like breath against the glass of their ears. Then it multiplied, overlapping into dozens of voices, men, women, children, all murmuring at once. Words impossible to separate, yet heavy with meaning. Lydia pressed her hands against her temples. Stop it, please." Rachel dropped to her knees, shaking. "They're saying something I can't understand." Marcus barked, more to drown the voices than to lead. "Stay together. Don't listen." But the whispering grew louder, filling their skulls. Words pushed to the edge of understanding, fragments clawing into thought. Stay. Belong. Never leave. The shadow reached the ceiling. Its head, or the suggestion of one, bent low, almost brushing their faces, though it had no eyes, no mouth. The diary on the desk flared open, pages whipping as though caught in a storm. "You belong to it." The phrase struck like a hammer in all their minds, as if the house itself had spoken. Thomas let out a roar and hurled his flashlight at the figure. The metal clattered uselessly against the wall. The shadow rippled but did not fade. Instead, it multiplied. The corners of the study darkened, birthing more shapes, thin, tall, faceless. They slid along the walls like stains come alive. Rachel scrambled to her feet. "The window! Break the window!" They lunged together. Marcus grabbed a chair, swinging it with all his strength. The glass shuddered but did not break. A second blow left only cracks, jagged lines spreading like veins. Behind them, the shadows advanced. Finally, with a scream, Thomas hurled the chair a third time. The window burst outward, shards scattering into the night. A rush of freezing air flooded the room, carrying the scent of wet leaves and decay. "Go!" Marcus shouted. Rachel climbed first, cutting her hands on the glass. Lydia pushed Owen after her. One by one, they scrambled through the frame, dropping onto the roof of the porch below. Marcus shoved Lydia ahead of him, then followed, blood dripping from his palm where the shards had sliced him. Thomas was last. He swung one leg out when a hand, not flesh but shadow, wrapped around his ankle. It burned cold, searing his skin. He screamed, kicking wildly, and Marcus grabbed him, yanking with all his weight. Together they tore him free, tumbling onto the porch roof in a heap. The study behind them pulsed with darkness, figures writhing like a nest of serpents. The diary's pages tore themselves free, fluttering into the night like black birds. Owen clutched his brother's arm. "We have to get out, we have to." They climbed down the porch, slipping on wet shingles, boots thudding against the ground. The forest air should have felt freeing, but the house loomed larger than before, its shape swollen, windows like blind eyes glowing faintly. Rachel sobbed. "It won't let us go." "I know it, I feel it." Marcus grabbed her shoulders, shaking her. "We just need to get back to the road, do you hear me? Don't lose it now." But the forest path behind them looked wrong. The trees leaned closer, their trunks twisted into shapes like screaming mouths. The trail they had taken seemed swallowed, replaced by undergrowth thick as chains. Lydia turned in circles, panic rising. "This isn't the way. We came through here, I know we did." The whispering returned, carried on the wind. "Stay, stay, stay." Owen pressed his hands over his ears, crying out, "Make it stop." Then through the shifting mist a light appeared, dim at first, flickering like a lantern. A figure stood in the distance, half hidden by trees. A woman, thin, hair wild, eyes glowing faintly. "It's Clara," Lydia whispered in relief. But when the figure stepped closer, they saw the truth. It was not Clara. The woman's face was wrong, blurred as though smeared by unseen hands. Her mouth opened too wide, stretching into darkness. The lantern she carried flickered once, then died, and she kept walking toward them. The figure advanced through the mist, her movements slow, deliberate, as though each step were chosen with care. The forest seemed to bend around her, branches arching like ribs of a cage. Rachel backed away, her breath breaking in sobs. "It's not her. It's not—" "Don't look at it," Marcus ordered, though his own voice quivered. "Eyes down. Don't give it power." But Owen couldn't look away. The woman's face was smeared, shifting, her features rearranging themselves with every flicker of shadow. For a heartbeat she wore his mother's face, gentle, kind. Then it melted, leaving hollow sockets and a mouth that unhinged like a snake's. "She knows me," Owen whispered, tears cutting streaks through the dirt on his cheeks. "She knows all of us." The woman stopped just beyond the tree line. Her mouth moved, but the voice came from everywhere at once. "You were warned." The words slithered into their skulls, vibrating in their bones. Lydia clutched her stomach as if the sound itself was sharp enough to cut. Thomas raised a branch like a weapon, swinging wildly. "Stay back. Do you hear me? Stay back." The figure smiled, or the shape of her face stretched into something resembling one. Then she dissolved, melting into the mist, her outline breaking apart like smoke. But the whispering did not leave. It deepened, echoing from every tree, every stone. The forest itself seemed to chant, "Stay, belong, never leave." They stumbled forward, tripping over roots and stones. The air grew thicker, colder, until each breath burned like ice. The path twisted, leading them in circles. No matter which way they turned, the silhouette of the house loomed through the trees, always ahead, always waiting. Rachel collapsed against a trunk, her chest heaving. "It won't let us go." "We're trapped." Marcus crouched beside her, forcing her to look at him. "Listen to me, we're not trapped. There's always a way. Houses, forests, shadows, they're just tricks. Do you understand? They feed on fear. If we stop giving it, we—" But his words died as the ground beneath them shifted. Roots tore through the soil, writhing like snakes wrapping around their ankles. Lydia screamed as one coiled her leg, dragging her to the ground. Thomas hacked at the roots with his branch, splintering wood against wood. Black sap oozed from the wounds, reeking of rot. The roots recoiled but did not retreat. Marcus and Owen yanked Lydia free, mud streaking her dress. Her skin burned where the root had touched her, a black mark spreading like frostbite. "We can't fight the forest," Rachel cried. "We have to go back. We have to face it in the house." "No," Marcus snapped. "That's exactly what it wants." But even as he said it, the forest shifted again, branches bending toward the house. Every shadow pointed the same direction, like fingers beckoning them home. They broke into a run, hearts hammering, lungs screaming. The trees thinned and the clearing opened once more. The house loomed, swollen larger, windows glowing faintly with sickly yellow light. Lydia stumbled to her knees, clutching her leg. I can't keep running. Thomas hauled her up. Then we stand and fight. Fight what? Rachel snapped, her voice breaking. You can't stab shadows, but the decision was made for them. The front door of the house creaked open, slow and deliberate, though no one touched it. Darkness spilled out, thick and liquid, seeping across the porch and dripping onto the grass. From the threshold came the sound of children laughing. High, broken giggles echoing in dozens of voices. Owen covered his ears. Make it stop. Please, Marcus pulled him close, his own eyes wide with horror. Don't listen. Don't. But the laughter grew louder, bubbling into shrieks. Shapes emerged from the doorway. Small, crooked figures, their limbs too long, their heads tilting at impossible angles. Their shadows stretched across the ground, reaching for the group like claws. Rachel staggered back. They're the Wren children. Oh God, they never left. The figures moved closer, jerking like marionettes with tangled strings. Their mouths opened, but no sound came. Only more laughter, spilling from the walls, the trees, the ground itself. Thomas swung his branch, smashing it against one of the shapes. For a heartbeat, it flickered like smoke, then solidified again, grinning with teeth too sharp. They can't be touched, he gasped. They're not. The figure lunged, passing through him. He screamed as frost spread across his skin, his breath crystallizing in the air. When the shape slipped free, his eyes were glazed, his lips blue. Rachel pulled him back, sobbing. He's freezing. Oh God, he's... Marcus forced them into a huddle, backs pressed together. Listen to me. We hold our ground. Do not run. Do not break. The shadows circled, multiplying, their laughter merging into one long, piercing shriek. The house pulsed behind them, each window glowing brighter, as though the building itself were alive. Then, from the doorway, another figure stepped forward. Taller, broader, its head brushing the top of the frame. Its body was made of shadow, but its hands were solid. Pale, human, dripping black liquid. The laughter stopped. Silence dropped like a stone. And in that silence, the figure spoke. You belong to the house. The words rooted them to the ground. Marcus tried to answer, to deny, but his mouth would not open. Lydia clutched her stomach, retching black bile. Owen shook violently, his body convulsing against his brother's grip. The figure raised one hand, pointing to the group. Its fingers were long, jointless, ending in sharp tips that gleamed faintly. Behind them, the forest closed. The trees bent inward, branches locking like bars. Rachel's voice cracked. There's no way out. The figure took another step, its weight shaking the porch. The house groaned in pleasure, as though welcoming its children home. And in that moment, Clara's words echoed in all of their minds. She told them the truth, but they laughed. Till it was too late. The figure stretched its hand further. The door slammed shut. Darkness swallowed the clearing. The darkness was not empty. It pressed against their skin, thick as oil, seeping into their mouths and noses until every breath felt stolen. Their flashlights had died the moment the door closed, leaving them blind. Yet the shadows moved regardless. Shapes shifting across their eyelids, burned into their vision like afterimages. Rachel clung to Lydia's arm, her voice trembling. I can't see, I can't... Quiet, Marcus hissed. His heart hammered, but he forced himself to sound calm. If we panic, it wins. But even he felt the weight of the words as hollow. A sound rose around them. The steady rhythm of footsteps. Not one set, but many, dozens, maybe hundreds, circling them in the dark. Some were heavy, others light, as though children and adults walked side by side. Owen whimpered. They're everywhere. Thomas's teeth chattered, not from cold alone. Where do we go? There's no door, no window, nothing. Then, without warning, a pale glow appeared in the center of the room. A book floated above the floor, its pages fluttering though there was no wind. The diary, the same one they had seen in the study, though its cover now glistened wet, as if soaked in blood. The pages turned on their own, stopping halfway. Ink rose from the paper, curling upward like smoke, forming words in the air. The Wrens belonged to the house. And so will you. Rachel shook her head violently. No, that's not real. but the letters hung there, burning like fire before dissolving back into the gloom. Lydia's breath caught. "Wait, did you hear that?" Through the whispering, another voice emerged, faint, far but human. "Run, not yet too late." The group froze. It sounded like Clara, Rachel whispered. Marcus spun toward the sound, though he couldn't see. "Clara? Clara, where are you?" The voice came again, stronger this time, weaving through the dark. "They took the wrens. They want you too. The house is alive," the shadows hissed, the whispering swelling in anger. The diary slammed shut, vanishing into the dark. Marcus clenched his fists. "It is her. She knows. She's been here before." Owen grabbed his sleeve, panicked. "But how? How can she speak to us if she's not inside?" Lydia's eyes widened. Unless she never left." The glow returned, but not from the diary this time. A shape bloomed in front of them, faint as moonlight. Clara, pale and trembling, her hands outstretched. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. "I told you, I warned you." Rachel rushed forward, nearly sobbing with relief. "Clara, you're here. You're alive." But Clara didn't move. Her eyes glistened with something beyond fear. "I came once," she said softly. "Years ago. I thought I escaped, but you don't escape this place. You only delay what it takes from you." The group stared at her, stunned. "What do you mean?" Marcus demanded. Clara raised her hand. Around them the shadows recoiled, hissing, their forms trembling as though her presence repelled them. "The wrens thought they owned this house," she said. "But it was always the other way around. It needed them, fed on them. When they tried to leave, it bound them here, turned them into the things you see. Shadows that never fade." Thomas's jaw clenched. "And you, how do you know all this?" Her face twisted with sorrow. "Because my grandmother was a wren." The words struck harder than the cold. Rachel gasped. You're one of them?" Clara nodded, tears in her eyes. "I grew up hearing the stories, but they weren't just stories. My grandmother escaped when she was a girl, the only one. She warned everyone, but no one listened. When she died, the house began calling again. I felt it in my dreams. That's why I told you to stay away." The shadows seethed, slamming against the walls, their faceless forms flickering. Clara's glow dimmed. "They know I'm here," she whispered urgently. "I can't hold them back for long, but you have a choice." "What choice?" Marcus demanded. "To stay and belong," Clara said, "or to fight the house itself. But if you fight, you must be ready to see the truth." The floorboards groaned, splitting beneath their feet. Darkness bubbled upward, thick as tar, pulling at their shoes. Owen screamed, "It's taking us!" Clara raised her arms, her glow flaring. For a heartbeat, the shadows shrank back and the tar stilled. Her voice rang clear, louder than before. "You must see what they saw. Only then can you fight it." And with a shattering sound, the room dissolved. They were no longer in the study. Instead, they stood in the same house, but alive. The wallpaper fresh, the furniture polished, the air filled with the scent of bread and smoke. The wrens were there, a father at the table, a mother stirring a pot, two children playing by the fire. Rachel gasped, clutching Lydia's arm. "We're in the past." "No," Clara's voice echoed around them. "Not the past, the house's memory." The father, tall and stern, rose from the table. His eyes were hollow, dark. He turned toward the door. A knock echoed through the house, slow, deliberate. The children froze. The mother's ladle slipped, clattering against the pot. The father opened the door. Nothing stood there. Only darkness, thick and living. The children screamed as shadows poured inside. The vision shifted violently. The wrens were dragged across the floor, their faces stretched in silent horror as the darkness swallowed them. The mother's hands clawed against the boards. The children's toys rolled across the room, stained black. Marcus shouted, "Stop it! Make it stop!" But Clara's voice was relentless. "This is what the house does. It feeds, it takes, and once you enter, it never lets you leave." The last thing they saw was the father's face, twisted, hollow, before. His body melted into shadow, his outline clinging to the wall like a stain. The vision shattered. They were back in the ruined study, the shadows pressing closer than ever. Clara stood before them, dimmer now, her glow almost gone. "You see the truth," she whispered. "Now you must decide. Fight or belong." The silence after Clara's words was unbearable. The group stood frozen, breaths shallow, the weight of what they had witnessed crushing them. Rachel's voice broke first. "Fight what? You can't fight a house. You can't fight shadows." Clara's glow trembled, flickering like a candle about to die. "You don't fight the shadows," she said softly. "You fight the hunger that makes them." Marcus frowned. "Hunger?" Clara nodded. "The house isn't haunted. It isn't cursed. It's alive. It feeds on fear, on despair, on the souls it traps. The Wrens were only the first. Since then it has lured others, families, wanderers, the curious, and every one of them became part of it. That is why the shadows don't fade. They are the people. What remains of them anyway?" Lydia wrapped her arms around herself, shivering. "And us, are we already—" "Yes," Clara said, her eyes glistening. "The moment you stepped inside, it marked you. It knows your names, your faces. It will follow you even if you leave." Owen shook his head violently. No, I don't want to." His voice cracked, dissolving into sobs. Marcus pulled him close, but his own face was pale with dread. "Then how do we fight it?" Thomas demanded. His voice was hoarse, but there was fire in it. "If it feeds on fear, then we starve it. We don't give it what it wants." Clara's expression darkened. "It isn't that simple. Fear is natural. It knows how to twist it, how to use your worst memories against you. To fight it, you must face yourselves. Everything you've hidden, everything you deny. If you fail, the house will claim you completely." The shadows pressed closer, thick as smoke, faceless heads tilting as though listening. The air shuddered with their whispers. "Belong, belong, belong." Rachel's knees buckled. I can't face it." Clara reached for her, her hand trembling. For the first time, her glow touched one of them, faint warmth against Rachel's arm. "You're stronger than you believe," Clara said softly, "but you must hurry. My strength is nearly gone. When I fade, you'll be alone." The diary reappeared in the air, slamming onto the floor between them. Its cover burst open, pages whipping, words bleeding through like veins of black ink. Marcus stared at it, jaw tight. "It wants us to read." "No," Clara snapped, her voice sharp. "It wants to bind you. That book isn't memory, it's the contract. Every name written in it belongs here, forever." The ink on the pages writhed, forming words, letters shifting until names appeared. Wren, 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 over and over. Then new lines began to form, the shapes of letters rising as though etched in by invisible hands. Marcus, Lydia, Rachel, Thomas, Owen. The group recoiled in horror. Thomas roared, stomping down on the book with his boot. The floor shook, but the diary did not move. Instead, the shadows screamed, 1,000 voices shrieking at once. The house trembled. Boards split, plaster rained from the ceiling. The air grew so cold their skin blistered, and the writing continued. Clara's glow faltered. "I can't stop it." "But maybe you can." She turned to Marcus, eyes burning with urgency. "You must destroy the heart." Marcus blinked. "The what?" "The heart of the house," Clara said. "Every living thing has one. The Wrens never found it. That's why they became shadows. But if you find it, if you burn it, you may break free." Owen clung to his brother, terrified. "But where is it?" Clara shook her head. "I don't know. I only feel it, deep, below, where the roots of the house grow." Rachel's stomach churned. "There's a basement." "Yes," Clara whispered. "The cellar. That's where it breathes." The shadows hissed violently, retreating toward the walls as if the word itself wounded them. The house groaned, furious. "You don't have much time," Clara said, her glow flickering faster. "Once the names are finished, you're bound, forever." Marcus clenched his fists. He looked at each of them, Owen trembling but trying to stand, Lydia pale but determined, Rachel shaking, her eyes wide with terror. Tomas' jaw clenched in defiance. Then he turned to Clara. "Show us the way." Clara smiled faintly, sorrow in her expression. "I can't. The house won't let me leave this room. But you'll know. Listen to it. Follow the beating." Her glow wavered, then fractured like shattered glass. Her voice faded with it. fight, or belong. And then she was gone. The group was alone again. The diary lay at their feet, pages still writing their names in ink that pulsed like blood. Marcus's voice was low but steady. We find the heart. We end this. The others stared at him, horror in their eyes, but no one argued. From the floor beneath them came a sound, slow, rhythmic, thump, like a heartbeat. The sound of the heartbeat echoed through the floor, slow and steady, as if the house itself pulsed with blood. Each thump rattled their bones, guiding them downward. Rachel hugged herself, trembling. It's alive. God help us, it's really alive. Marcus's jaw tightened. Then we kill it. The others didn't answer. They only followed the sound. The hallway twisted as they moved. Doors appeared where none had been, opening into rooms that defied logic. A kitchen filled with rotting food crawling with insects. A parlor where portraits bled from their frames. A nursery with empty cribs that rocked on their own. The heartbeat grew louder. Thump, thump. At the end of the hall they found a staircase, narrow and steep, spiraling down into blackness. The air that rose from it was damp and foul, carrying the stench of decay. Owen froze at the top step, clutching Marcus's sleeve. I can't go down there. Marcus squeezed his shoulder. You can. Because I'm with you. Owen's lip quivered, but he nodded. Together they began the descent. The cellar was vast, far larger than the foundation should have allowed. Its walls were slick with moisture, veins of black mold spreading like spiderwebs. Candles burned in niches, their flames unnatural, blue, flickering without heat. And at the center of the cellar, half buried in the dirt floor, was a mass of pulsing flesh. It was the size of a man, beating in rhythm with the sound that had led them here. Veins spread outward from it, crawling along the ground and disappearing into the walls, as though the entire house was wired into this one grotesque organ. Rachel gagged, covering her mouth. Oh God, that's it. That's the heart. The others stared, unable to move. The thing shuddered with each thump, the wet sound filling the chamber. Then came the whisper, louder than ever, belong to me. The walls rippled, and shadows poured down from the ceiling like liquid, forming into faceless figures. Dozens of them circling the group, their bodies jerking with hunger. Lydia clutched her leg, the black mark from the forest roots spreading. Her skin was pale, her eyes glassy. I don't feel right. Stay with us, Thomas barked, pulling her close. Don't give in. But Lydia's hands trembled. When she lifted them, her fingertips were already darkening, turning translucent like smoke. They're inside me, she whispered, voice breaking. I can feel them. Rachel screamed as one of the shadows lunged. Marcus swung a broken plank, striking through it, but the shape only dissolved and reformed, its laughter echoing in his skull. Thomas grabbed a rusted pipe from the ground and pointed it at the heart. Forget the shadows, we kill that thing. He charged forward, raising the pipe high, but before he could strike, the floor erupted. Roots burst upward, wrapping around his legs, yanking him to the ground. He struggled, cursing, but the roots dragged him toward the heart. No! Rachel cried, rushing to pull him back. The roots lashed at her, slicing her arm. She fell back, blood streaking her skin. Thomas's screams echoed as the roots tightened around him. His body convulsed, his skin paling. His eyes rolled back, and with a final shudder, he went still. The roots retracted, pulling his lifeless body into the heart. The flesh absorbed him, shuddering with pleasure. The heartbeat grew louder. Owen sobbed, clutching Marcus. It's feeding, it's getting stronger. Marcus's face twisted with fury. Then we starve it. They formed a circle around the heart, each holding whatever they could as weapons, pipes, boards, jagged stones. The shadows swirled, closing in. Rachel gritted her teeth. If we hit it together, the house roared. The sound was not just in their ears, but in their bones, shaking their very souls. The ceiling cracked, dirt and plaster raining down, and then the hallucinations began. Rachel saw her father, dead 5 years, standing across the cellar, smiling warmly. He opened his arms. Come home, Rachel. Lydia heard her mother's voice, soft and gentle. It doesn't hurt, darling. Just let go. Owen saw flames, the house of his nightmares, the one he could never forget. The night of the fire, his screams echoed in his ears as if he were there again. Each of them froze, torn between the horror in front of them and the phantoms of their own minds. Marcus shouted, his voice raw. "It's lies, all of it. Don't listen." But the others were breaking. Rachel stepped forward, trembling, tears streaming down her face. Lydia collapsed, whispering apologies. Owen clutched his head, shrieking. And behind them, the heart beat faster. Thump, 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 thump. Marcus's throat burned as he shouted over the roar of the house. "It's not them. Do you hear me? It's not real." But Rachel's steps carried her closer to the phantom of her father. His smile widened, his arms stretching too long, too thin until his hands became claws. "Rachel, no." Marcus lunged, yanking her back just as the phantom dissolved into shadow, shrieking. She collapsed against him, sobbing, her nails digging into his arm. Lydia writhed on the floor. Her body flickered between flesh and smoke, her limbs jerking like a puppet's. "It's inside me," she gasped, her voice layered with whispers. "I can't fight it, I am it." Owen knelt beside her, crying. "No, you're still here. You're still Lydia." But her eyes turned black, bottomless. Shadows poured from her mouth, twisting upward into a faceless form that towered over them. With a final shudder, her body dissolved entirely, leaving only the figure behind. Rachel screamed. Owen clutched Marcus, trembling uncontrollably. The heart pulsed faster, louder, the chamber shaking with each beat. Thump, thump, thump. Marcus raised his plank like a sword. "We end this now." He charged the heart, slamming the wood into its flesh. The impact sent a shockwave through the cellar, the shadows shrieking in pain. Black ichor sprayed, burning his skin, but he struck again and again, fueled by rage. Rachel joined him, swinging a jagged stone into the veins that stretched across the floor. Each blow tore through the tissue, spilling foul liquid. The heart convulsed, its rhythm stuttering. The shadows faltered, their forms flickering. For the first time, the house seemed afraid. Then the roots burst upward again. They wrapped around Rachel's waist, yanking her off her feet. She screamed, clawing at the ground as they dragged her toward the heart. "Marcus!" He dropped his plank, diving after her, but the roots pulled faster. He grabbed her hands, straining, his muscles tearing with the effort. Her nails cut into his skin as she screamed, "Don't let go!" Owen scrambled beside him, pulling too, his face streaked with tears. For a heartbeat, it seemed they might win. Rachel's body lifted from the roots, her grip tightening, but the heart pulsed violently and the roots surged, ripping her from their hands. Her scream echoed as she was pulled into the pulsing flesh, swallowed whole. The heart convulsed in ecstasy, its beat stronger than ever. Marcus fell to his knees, shaking, his hands slick with her blood. Owen sobbed, collapsing against him. "She's gone. She's gone." The cellar shook harder, the walls splitting. The shadows swarmed, their laughter shrill. Marcus rose slowly, his eyes burning with fury. "Then we make her death mean something." He grabbed the pipe Thomas had dropped, lifting it like a spear. "Owen, help me." His brother stared, terrified. I can't do this." "Yes, you can," Marcus snapped. "We're all that's left. If we don't end it, no one ever will." Owen's chest heaved, his face pale, but he nodded. Together they charged. Marcus drove the pipe deep into the heart. Black ichor exploded outward, soaking them, burning their skin. The heart screamed, the sound deafening, inhuman. The shadows writhed, some dissolving into smoke. Again! Marcus roared. Owen grabbed a splintered board and rammed it into the pulsing flesh. The heart convulsed, tearing, veins snapping like ropes. The house howled. The floor collapsed, chunks of earth raining down. The heartbeat grew erratic, frantic. For a moment it seemed they had won. Then the heart opened, its flesh split like a mouth, rows of teeth erupting from the wound. A single eye formed in the center, black and endless, staring directly at them. Marcus froze, horror pinning him in place. The eye blinked once, then a voice filled the chamber louder than thunder. "You cannot kill me. You are mine." The roots lashed out, wrapping around Owen's chest. He screamed as they lifted him from the ground, dragging him toward the maw of the heart. Marcus dropped the pipe, lunging forward. He grabbed Owen's arms, pulling with all his strength. "Hold on. I've got you." Owen's eyes were wide, terrified. "Don't let go, Marcus." "Please." The roots tightened. Bones cracked. Blood gushed from his mouth. His scream turned to a gurgle. "No!" Marcus roared, pulling until his muscles tore. But the heart swallowed Owen whole, its teeth snapping shut. The eye rolled back in pleasure. The beat steadied, stronger than ever. Marcus collapsed, his hands empty. His brother was gone. The cellar shook violently, dust choking the air. The shadows shrieked, their laughter triumphant. Marcus lay on the ground, staring blankly. Everyone, Thomas, Lydia, Rachel, Owen, gone. Swallowed. Only he remained. The heart pulsed, the eye staring at him. "You are mine too." Marcus lifted his head slowly. His face was pale, but his eyes blazed. "No, you'll never have me." With the last of his strength, he grabbed the pipe from the floor and hurled himself at the heart. He drove the metal deep into its eye, screaming with all his fury. The heart shrieked, convulsing violently. The entire house trembled, walls splitting, roof collapsing. Shadows writhed and dissolved into smoke. Marcus twisted the pipe deeper. Black ichor exploded, flooding the cellar. The heart tore itself apart, ripping in two. The ground gave way. Marcus fell into the darkness, swallowed by the collapsing house. When the dust settled, the clearing was empty. The house was gone, no walls, no roof, no rubble. Only a crater remained, filled with blackened soil. The forest was silent, the air still. But if one listened closely, beneath the silence, a faint sound remained. Thump, a heartbeat, waiting.